Thank you very much. The historical period in which we live is characterized by several parallel processes that can be conditionally defined as the global chaos time. The main feature of the global chaos are the growing geostrategic and geopolitical tensions of the old and new superpowers, the dominance of the finance crisis, whose maximum in terms of the breakdown of the overall global financial order is foreseen by the long social tensions and inequalities that lead to the growing decline in confidence in the functional of state administrative structure worldwide, religion, radicalism both in the East and in the West. The emerging this new global world is characterized by the several key processes. We are moving from a unipolar to multipolar world, and that's obvious. From the philosophy of the post-World War II international order to the new global system, from analog to digital societies, and much more important, I think, is from humans to the smart robot societies. Changes and challenges are tectonic in all spheres of life and require permanent and very fast adaptation to the new reality, especially in the region of Middle East. Essence of global changes are sublimated in short sentences. In all segments of demography, economy, and in the long run in military, Asia will determine the future of the world. That's for the sure. These changes are characterized by incredible speed, dynamic, and power, constructive and destructive. In all of these processes, Orient and Middle East have a unique opportunity to formulate new model of dialogue, cooperation, and building bridges through the affirmation of old but new spiritual value systems, and thus could contribute in the long-term healing, spiritual, scientific, political, of modern global elites in every part of our globe. Middle East elites must implement, I think, new model of thinking and new discourse in three main segments, with the final aims to have Middle East as a lighthouse road for Asia to the 22nd century. I mean, for Asia and for the rest of the globe. These three main segments, I think, are first and foremost, leave the prison of the fears of the past. Second, develop scientific diplomacy, national and local centers. And after that, Middle East science diplomacy network, with common aim, open and united Middle East. So third should be to start to develop a new diplomacy 3.0. Still, we have a time for that, but I'm not sure how many days or months we have for that. Humans diplomacy, which should be a concept of diplomacy between humans and smart robots. So let's go deeper in all of this. First, what does it mean to leave the prison of the fear of the past? For more than 100 years, Middle East has been a scene of collision of the interests of the great superpowers. Each of the superpower in a given historical time aspirate to achieve dominance over the states, regions, and people of Middle East in order to achieve their own goals, of course. The results were the maximum exploitation of the natural resources, the spread of ethnic, national, and religion division, not only with one state, but also in the entire region. The results we have today are that the young generations and a large part of the elites still lives in the prison of the fears of the past. What does it mean? Dominant is the fear of the first immediate neighbor, fears that he will repeat something from the immediate past. And every this fear actually creates a radical reaction and prevent dialogue and cooperation. Why are the prisons of the fear still so strong? One model of domination from the past over the people and states of Middle East was the destruction of tradition, or at least its reduction in minds of the inhabitants that the traditional spiritual values are something outdated and outmoded, something obsolete. The second model of domination was the destruction of indigenous way of education. Most of the modern elites were educated in the center of Europe and the USA. Such elites were losing their original tradition and tried to promote Anglo-Saxon values that they had adopted in the learning processes in the West after returning to the countries of the Middle East. On this way, the ideal ground was formed for the emergence of the new generation, young generation, which is in most cases live today in the prison of the fear of from the first neighboring state or first neighboring city. The fear that immediate neighbor will not repeat something that the nation, ethnic group, or state has already experienced from the past. That's how barriers and lack of cooperation, science, and open were formed. The first step in transformation of that logic and the way of thinking is to break all those prisons of fear. By breaking those logical model basis for strengthening the cooperation of all ethnic, national, religion groups and people of Middle East is laid. Second segment is to develop science diplomacy national, local centers, and after that Middle East science diplomacy networks with one common aim, to have open and united Middle East. Develop new approaches for cooperation. It's necessary to form centers of scientific diplomacy at the level of cities, regions, then countries, and then the entire Middle East. When we will have enough centers who are formed, the formation of strong Middle East science diplomacy network should be started. Scientific cooperation, which will manifest itself in concrete action, literacy, training, development of hybrid and other new models of education in the local community, will enable the development of new programs and projects for the spiritual and material reconstruction of the entire Middle East. Reconstruction on its own autochthonous foundations. Greater presence of science in everyday life will strengthen social and even other segment of life, and the bubble of national, ethnic, and religious radicalism will be deflated. Instead of story about the Middle East as a source of terrorism and political permanent instability, we will get the Middle East as a lighthouse of the path to the future of the entire region and beyond. One of the focuses of the such center of science diplomacy should be the development of diplomacy 3.0, humans versus smart robots, based on traditions, ideas, and spiritual values of the Middle East, such as the spiritual guidelines of the ancient old Mitras, Dervish, Sufis, maybe even yogis. Third, start to develop diplomacy 3.0. What does it mean? Under these circumstances, mankind is facing the galloping development of the fourth industrial revolution, digitalization, and robotics. The exponential speed of the development and application of all derivatives of fourth industrial revolution is accompanied by the deep unconscious of the most of Earth's population about the deep and essence of the changing that we as a civilization encounter. Numerous paradigms and basic settings of everyday life are changing at a rapid speed, and the large part of humanity is unprepared, uninformed, and even not educated for life reality in 21st century, a life in which science fiction become a reality of daily life. At present time of the global chaos, where the rise of geopolitical, geostrategical tensions between superpowers is going on, in front of humanity and civilization is put the question of future survival of our civilization. In the morning of rising and new power of new species, smart, autonomous, humanoid robots. It seems that the most of human community is still not aware of deepest of the changes that we as a civilization face, and that the many still live in the daily rhythm of greed, egocentrism. Humans are still in one kind of sleeping as long as fourth industrial revolution is galloping in progresses and pretend to escape control. It's clear that without development of the new social and technological circumstances of the daily life, as the presence of smart autonomous humanoid robots has been intensified, there is a need to formulate now something that could be called new diplomacy for the 22nd century, diplomacy between human and smart robots. Hopefully, I hope really, one of the scenarios for the development of future global society will not be in the end like this. After the global confrontation on the Earth, few thousands of humans who survived were welcomed by robots Sophia and Han. They welcome humans with words, well, we were pleased to warn you that you are not so smart, not so moral, and most ethical species. You didn't want to listen to us. Now go play under the glass bell. There you will be protected from the sun's ultraviolet ray radiation, contaminated food, water, radiation, etc. And children, be good. Middle East, to conclude, has a unique opportunity to formulate new models of dialogue, cooperation, building bridges through the affirmation of old as new spiritual value systems, and thus could contribute to the long-term healing, spiritual, scientific, political of modern global elites. Middle East has a unique opportunity to be a generator of the new approaches and new ideas of modern international relations, and be the lighthouse of the path to the future of the entire region and beyond. And what actually we need new narratives and new public discourses. And for that, the Middle East elites must go deeper in the center of logic of possible new approaches, not just to follow present geopolitical reality and react. Elites should develop and go proactive and go back to original Middle East spiritual narratives, autochtone narratives, which are actually with more empathy, constructivism, and dialogue oriented. Thank you very much.